Today, we're talking about one of the biggest ideas in personal finance, FIRE. That's financial independence, retire early. But we're going to look at it from a slightly different angle, how to find a path that you can actually stick with for the long haul.
So let's just jump right in with the big question. When you hear FIRE, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's this image of extreme sacrifice, never eating out, no vacations, basically cutting out every single luxury. But is that really the only way? Do you have to become a minimalist to make this work? Let's dig in.
And of course, just a quick reminder before we get going, this is all for educational purposes. It's not financial advice, so please make sure you talk to a professional about your own situation.
All right, to really understand the journey to FIRE, we have to start with the most powerful lever you can pull, your spending. And here's the thing, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It affects your progress in two huge and equally important ways.
Okay, so the first impact is the one everybody gets right away. It's just simple math, right? The less you spend every month, the more you have left over to save and invest. A higher savings rate basically means you're adding more fuel to your financial engine. Pretty straightforward.
But here's the second part, and honestly, this is the one that really changes the game. Your annual spending doesn't just affect how much you can save, it literally sets the finish line. That big goal, your FIRE number, is a direct multiple of how much you spend every single year. And this is where you can really see that double impact come to life. Look, with high spending, your FIRE number might be something like $2.5 million, a goal that could easily take 40 years to hit. But watch what happens when you switch to intentional spending. Your target gets sliced in half, down to $1.25 million, and your timeline? It shrinks to just 20 years. See? You're not just saving more money each month, you're actually shrinking the entire mountain you have to climb. It's huge.
So if spending is that powerful, does it just mean the person who spends the absolute least is the one who wins? Well, not really. The goal is financial independence, but the ways to get there are incredibly diverse. There's definitely no one-size-fits-all approach here. For instance, just look at two of the most popular strategies. You've got lean FIRE on one side, which is all about retiring on a very low-cost lifestyle, and then you have fat FIRE for people who want to maintain a much higher standard of living when they retire. Both are completely valid paths. The important thing is that you get to decide what kind of lifestyle you're working towards. And this all leads us to the real heart of our discussion today. If extreme sacrifice isn't the only way, and there are all these different lifestyles to choose from, what's the sustainable middle ground? Well, the answer is a really powerful idea called mindful or intentional spending. So, what exactly is mindful spending? It's actually pretty simple. It's the practice of making sure your financial choices line up with what you truly value. It's not about cutting everything out. It's about being willing to spend generously, even lavishly, on the things that bring you real joy, and then being absolutely ruthless about cutting out the stuff that doesn't. This whole way of thinking is built on a few key ideas. First, it's about alignment, not deprivation. It's also deeply personal. Your spending should reflect your values, not what someone on the internet thinks you should value. It's also about finding that sweet spot, that balance between enjoying your life now and building a solid future. And really, that's what makes this whole journey sustainable and maybe even enjoyable. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually put it into practice? How do you use this power of intentionality to design a FIRE journey that's completely your own? It's a lot simpler than you might think. It all boils down to a pretty straightforward three-step framework. First, you have to get really clear on what you actually value. Is it travel? Is it quality time with family? A particular hobby? Step 2, you start to consciously align your spending to match those values. And step 3, you look at everything else, all the spending that doesn't add real value to your life, and you cut it without a second thought. And that right there brings us to the core message of this whole explainer. You don't need to force yourself into some rigid, minimalist box to hit your financial goals. What you really need is intentionality. Because really, at the end of the day, the goal isn't just about reaching a certain number in a spreadsheet. It's about designing a life where you can find happiness right now, today, while you're still making steady progress towards a future where money doesn't call the shots. It's all about finding that balance. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Thinking about everything we've just talked about, what's one expense in your life that you truly value, one that you'll keep spending on totally guilt-free? And on the other side of that, what's one expense you could intentionally get rid of, starting today, just because it doesn't really line up with the life you want to build?